Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. On one of my first trips to the United States, I was in the state of Florida, and I was in Kissimmee, yes, near the Disney theme parks, driving along Orange Blossom Trail. And I saw this building, a lovely building with an amazing fountain in front of it. And I turned in to see what it was. I thought this must be some real historical landmark. And I found it was the world headquarters of Tupperware. Yes, those little plastic containers. And I thought, oh my goodness, there's more money in those plastic containers than I ever dreamed, isn't there? Now, Tupperware was founded by a guy, and guess his name. Guess what his name was? Yes, it was Tupper, Earl Tupper. Earl Tupper was an inventor. He kept a little notebook, and before the Second World War, he was trying to invent all different kinds of things. His inventions didn't seem to go very far. I don't know why. You know, one of them was a boat that would be powered by fish, and that fish would pull the boat along. Can't understand why that one didn't become popular. Anyway, his inventions didn't work out, and he set up a landscaping business, and then that went bust during the Great Depression, and he ended up working for the chemical company DuPont. And there was a byproduct left over, plastic slag, polyethylene. It was just a black, sticky substance that was left over. And Earl Tupper began taking this stuff home and experimenting with it to see if he could make something out of it. He tried boiling it and managed to find that he could create a plastic material out of this polyethylene. And at first he used it for making gas masks for use in the Second World War. But then he realized he could make containers out of it. And that's how Tupperware started. Now, he teamed up with a lady called Brownie Wise, because Brownie Wise was as good at marketing as Earl Tupper was at messing about with polyethylene. And she was the one who dreamed up the idea of having Tupperware parties, where people would invite their friends and everyone would buy a Tupperware item. I can remember years ago, my wife Janice attending Tupperware parties, and when we could hardly afford it, coming home with these Tupperware containers. And I would say, Guy, you've not bought more of them, have you? But of course, the thing was, all the friends would come together and you sort of had to buy something to keep your friends happy. I remember she came back with one container and she said, this container, I said, what do we want that for? She said, it can keep cheese fresh for 3 weeks. I said, you know that a block of cheese doesn't last more than 3 days in our house because I love eating this stuff. But nevertheless, she would buy these Tupperware containers. Well, nowadays, Tupperware is not as popular as it used to be. I mean, you go to the Chinese takeaway and you get these little containers that do the job just as well and they don't cost you anything. But nevertheless, Tupperware was tremendously successful and billions of dollars worth of sales. But a lot of it was based around friendship. The whole idea of the Tupperware party was people would invite their friends, and the power of friendship enabled them to sell Tupperware. Do you know there's a great parallel there with the gospel of Jesus Christ? Because the gospel of Jesus Christ is wonderful, is life-saving, transforms our lives, but many people don't really appreciate their need for the gospel. And yet one of the ways that the gospel spreads fastest is not through preachers. Now, that might hurt my ego as a preacher, but the main way that the gospel spreads is not through the eloquence of preachers. It's not through Christian television or even Christian radio. But the fastest way that the gospel spreads is through friendship networks, is through people telling their friends, this worked for me, and I think it will work for you. That's the fastest way that the gospel spreads. Very similar to how Brownie Wise and Earl Tupper discovered the key to selling Tupperware by utilizing friendships. You know, we all have networks of friends and acquaintances. Very often we will buy a product because our friend bought it and they said it was good. We will watch a TV show. We will watch something on Netflix because somebody else watched it and says, oh, you've got to see this. And so the primary way that we can spread the good news of Jesus Christ is by simply telling the people that we already know. Now, that's not to belittle or put down other methods of evangelism. They're all necessary and they all work together. But the greatest and most effective way to share the gospel is simply to tell your friends, Jesus did something wonderful for me, and he can do the same for you. The gospel according to Tupperware. Give it a try. You will be surprised at how people's lives can be changed. Thank you for joining us for this Take 5, and please join us next time for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.